Welcome to Race 13. Halfway.
Here comes the 25 of Joey Logano.
Through a season of dramatic victories.
James Buescher trying to hold on. Will he do it? He'll win at Daytona.
Vicious hits.
What a big hit on the 60 of Patrick Shelton.
And consistency.
It's going to be Parker Kligerman winning in Michigan.
The king right now in the ARCA Remax Series.
It's 3 in a row for Kligerman.
Rookie Parker Kligerman has set the ARCA Remax Series
down the backstretch they go.
On fire.
Who's going to win to the stripe? And Kligerman wins 4 in a row.
And this man finally stopped him.
The streak will come to an end. Justin Lofton is your winner in Berlin.
Who will cross first today?
The scenery here in the Pocono Mountains is spectacular, as is the weather, but this 2.5-mile Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania for the Pennsylvania ARCA 200 can be very challenging. And hi everybody, glad you're with us. Steve Burns and Kyle Petty. Kyle, what I love about ARCA is we have teenagers who want to get noticed. We've got lifers like Frank Kimmel, Bobby Gerhardt, who've won a lot of races, and we even have 74-year-old James Harvey Hilton, but they all have to challenge this racetrack.
Yeah, and this is a racetrack of compromise. One long straightaway, 2 short chutes, 3 totally different corners. And I think when you look at it, that's the whole deal. You got to get into that first corner. It's got a little bank. It'll hold you a little bit. You get to the first short chute. Then you get to the tunnel turn. The tunnel turn is just make it across that thing. You just want to get your car across there and be comfortable because it's a very uncomfortable corner. Next short chute, then the turn 3. Turn 3 is incredibly fast, but everybody wants to work hard on turn 3 because you got to get down this straightaway because a lot of the passing is done with a draft off of turn 3 and down the straightaway.
Kyle, the talk in the garage, Parker Kligerman, just 18 years old from Connecticut. There he is, already a 5-time winner in this 2009 season. He was trying to win 5 in a row last weekend in Berlin, Michigan, but Kyle, on that short track, that's near impossible. 25-year-old Justin Lofton on the pole in the 6 car.
Yeah, and that's amazing that, you know, you win 3 or 4 races in any division. Here's Frank Kimmel leading the first laps that he's led this season. Who would have believed a guy who's won that many championships takes this deep into the season to finally get a win or finally lead a lap?
Frank Kimmel, a 9-time champion, Kyle. Justin Lofton winning from the pole. He breaks Kligerman's win streak. He also narrows the point standings. He had a 150-point lead, Kyle. Kligerman did. Lofton locked 50 points off like that.
Yeah, and that's where this series, the ARCA series, is so competitive. You can be 360 points out, like Kimmel is. You still got a chance at the championship here. It's not like the Cup Series or other series that you normally see on speed where it's so close, there's no chance of movement. There's a lot of chance for movement here.
Wendy Venturini standing by with our most recent winner.
And Justin Lofton has won in 2009, but last time here at Pocono, he finished 2nd. Justin, how bad do you want to go for that win today?
I really want to win at Pocono Speedway. It's definitely a track I've, had a dream to win here, and, we really got a good chance today. And bummed out qualifying got rained out. I still think we would have been qualifying or starting in the same position, but we're going to go out there and we're going to give it all we have.
Talk about points. This is a big day for you. You can gain some more points and get ahead a little bit further and catch up to Parker there.
Yeah, definitely. We gained 50 points last weekend with a win in Berlin, and we can go do the same here with another win, keep them in our rearview mirror, and hopefully we can come out with a points lead. If not, definitely a lot closer to them.
Justin Lofton starting from that top spot today.
All right, thank you very much, Wendy. Now, Kyle, 8 weeks ago, Kligerman finished 6th. He lost a left front tire twice, but still had a good day. Left the racetrack, went to his senior prom back in Connecticut.
Hey, when you can leave the racetrack and have a date waiting on you, that's a good day, man.
Good times. Jim Trado skating by with our points leader.
When Parker Kligerman had the chance to go back to Kentucky for the 2nd time this season, which hasn't happened often in his stock car career, he produced a victory. Today at Pocono, a return hopes as well for victory here today as well.
Yeah, well, we went there with the at Kentucky last week, a couple weeks ago, with the idea of revenge that we won back on that track, and I think this track is the same deal. We had the speed to win. We led laps. We pulled away from the leader that led the most laps and who won the race. and we had an unfortunate mishap with the left front tires, but we come back with revenge. We fixed that problem, and I think we can go out and get it this week.
Same race car, and they were the only guys really to pass Joey Logano, who won that race back here in June at Pocono.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. Had a lot of rain here yesterday, so as you heard, qualifying was rained out. So Lofton and Kligerman start from the front row. We'll come back and fire the engines from Pocono. Stay with us here on Speed. Speed's coverage of the ARCA REMAX Series is brought to you by REMAX, outstanding agents, outstanding results. And by Menards, save big money at Menards. And by Ansell Protective Products, for over 100 years, the world leader in hand protection. Pre-race festivities nearly done here at the Pocono Raceway. All that's left now is to get this race underway, and for that we go trackside for the command to start engines.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to go with today's running of the ARCA.
41 cars come to life here in Pocono, Pennsylvania. ARCA has been coming to this racetrack since 1973. This is the 49th race for the ARCA REMAX Stars on this 2.5-mile Pocono Raceway. Glad you're back with us here at Pocono. Pace laps nearly complete. Steve Burns, Kyle Petty, Wendy Venturini, Jim Trado, and the entire Speed Racing team glad to be with you. Kyle, the weather here is just spectacular.
It's incredible. It's hard to believe. Almost every time we come up here, we get rain one day. And rain is bad enough when you know the racetrack. When you don't know the racetrack and you're trying to learn the racetrack, and just as we said in the opening, it is a racetrack of compromise. It's tough. It puts these guys behind the 8 ball a little bit.
The good news, Kyle, they did get some practice in yesterday morning as scheduled, but qualifying is rained out. Let's take a look at our race analysis. Quick race, Kyle. You don't have time to mess around with your race car, just 80 laps.
It's hard to believe you can run a 2.5-mile racetrack and call it a sprint race. You know, it's like your Saturday night 15-lap race. It's that type deal. And that's the way these guys have to approach it because it's so short. Pit road speed's 55. The pit window is 30 to 35 miles and 30 to 35 laps. And what that will be dictated by some is if these guys can run close enough together to draft. In other series, they draft a little bit. It helps fuel mileage. In this series, they kind of get spread out sometimes.
It's a very unusual layout for a racetrack. We talk about it being a triangle. It literally is, Kyle, 3,700 feet down that straightaway, which is longer than Richmond International Raceway as an oval.
3,700 feet. I want you to think about this. Bobby Allison, when they used to come up here and test, would land his airplane on the front stretch, taxi it over to pit road, would test for a day, and then take off on the... There's a lot of airports out there that aren't 3,700 feet long. The deal with this racetrack is lack of banking. Look at that first corner, 14 degrees. That is the most banking anywhere on this racetrack, except going in and out of the tunnel when you leave the place. It's a little bit of a dip there. But other than that, it's a flat racetrack. And when you enter these corners at 180 or 90 miles an hour and it's flat, there's not a lot there to hold you. So the car really has to handle good.
Now, although Parker Kligerman in the 77 is your leader in driver points, the 6 car starts from the pole as you watch the ticker across the top of your screen, Justin Lofton, because they have more owner points. A couple of cars going to the rear, Mike Holt in the 20 car. He was late for tech. Jason Ferrier in the 99, unapproved suspension adjustment. And Tim George in the 2 car, also going to the rear of the field. We'll talk about that in just a second. The Menards Pole Award presented by Ansell. Qualifying has been rained out 5 times this year.
You know, I think weather has wreaked havoc on motorsports all across the United States. It seems like with any series you watch on TV, at some point in time they say practice postponed because of weather, qualifying postponed. I had no idea that the ARCA series had had that many rainouts.
We mentioned the 2 car of Tim George Jr. going to the rear, and Kyle, the report we got on that is because after the car started to roll off, he stopped and indexed his steering wheel. Talk about that.
Yeah, in other series, in the Cup Series, NASCAR Series, you can stop on the racetrack and index your steering wheel. What that means is it's a 3-prong winch or steering whel. You want to get the spokes in the place where it's most comfortable for you. There's nothing worse than the steering wheel being out of place on the race car. So what they've done is he's been able to pull pull over and stop, but they're supposed to do that according to ARCA rules prior to leaving the grid.
You mentioned Frank Kimmel leading a lap at Berlin. He could reach a milestone here today, Kyle. If he leads 6 laps, it will be 10,000 laps led by that 9-time champion.
And that's phenomenal. That's like talking about Michael Jordan and the amount of points or assists that he has in other sports. Frank Kimmel to ARCA is Michael Jordan. That's the way it is. So I'd like to see him get to that 10,000 today.
By the way, Kyle Petty, 1 ARCA race, 1 ARCA win. Glad you're here.
Glad I'm here too, because this is going to be a great race, man.
One of the greatest sights in stock car racing, Kyle, those cars fan out coming down that long straightaway.
And that's what's so cool about it. These guys will go instantly 4 and 5 wide. You see this corner, it's a wide corner, but really they want to be from the middle down. You'd never see really people run up next to the wall, but ooh, little contact almost right off the bat. These guys are racing hard, just as you said. This is a sprint race. It's 80 laps. They got to get it done, and they got to get their position early.
Lofton in the 6 by Kligerman in the 77. Kyle, are there spots, are there places on this track where you could be more aggressive? You talked about it being a compromise.
Yeah, you can be incredibly aggressive getting into turn 1 if you're confident in your brake package and the car and the downforce that you have. The other place that you can be incredibly aggressive is at the tunnel. That's bravery. You just out-brave somebody.
Caution out early, the 89 car. Hard into the wall. So caution flies.
That might be off the tunnel turn. It's really hard to tell from this view.
Chris Lafferty in the 89. Damage to the front end of his race car. Let's take a look at what happened. Just lap 2. Let's take a look at what happened.
And this is a tunnel turn. See how high he is? Now, that's not being brave. This guy had a problem getting into that corner. When you see him that high into this corner, and he comes into it. Oh, this is the 89 car. Yeah, and here he is past the tunnel. I'm not sure how that all got put together, how he started into the corner that high and ended up that far around the racetrack. But he started into that corner nowhere close to the groove, nowhere close to where anybody's run for the last couple of days. When it got away from him, he just ended up halfway down the short chute.
First caution of the day, Chris Lafferty into the wall in the 89 car. EMS folks, attend to him. We'll take a break and be right back to Pocono. Tonight on Speed, Ron Hornaday leads the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series into Music City. Tune in as he drives for a 5th straight win. Skinner, Crafton, and Bodine gear up to take him down as the Camping World Truck Series live from Nashville tonight at 7:30 Eastern. Still under caution for a 1-car spin. The 89 car driven by Chris Lafferty. Kyle, let's take a look again at what happened.
Yeah, you see him entering the corner way up next to the wall. I think he just got in there and had no brakes or was running way too fast. You see him as he goes out of this shot, he's sideways. This is how he ended up all the way down the short chute. He runs the 88 car or 86. I couldn't tell. It was hard to tell from that angle. Off in the grass, kind of bent his valence back up under. But, I mean, to go that far, look how fast he's entering this corner, even under slow motion. He's gaining on these people. This is where these people are on the brakes hard as they go by the Pocono sign. And I think what he tried to do when he got there, he realized either A, the car wouldn't turn in the corner, or B, the car was way too fast and had no brakes. And he just rode the wall, which takes the impact away. And that was a very, very smart thing for him to do.
We've had a couple of drivers on the move right from the green flag. One of them is Justin Marks in the 15 car. Already made up 15 positions. He started 27th. Let's go to Jim Tradow.
Well, Steve, he was 6th in practice yesterday, but they made a whole lot of changes. He told me just before the race, 4 or 5 changes to try to get this car as good as it was in Michigan. He started 24th in Michigan and was leading when he had a tire issue. He's hoping that the changes made today are reflective of the Michigan run. He had a poor qualifying effort there. He couldn't qualify on time, so he had to start way in the back. He said, man, if my car works like it did at Michigan, we've got some adjustability built in, we're going to the front. So he started 27th today. Again, he had the lead late in the going until that tire issue at Michigan that cost him a potential first victory here in the ARCA REMAX Series.
You know, it's always cool to listen to guys like that and kids like that talk. They find a car and they say, man, I like the way it worked at Michigan, or I like the way it worked at this racetrack. If we can just get it to work that way at Pocono or somewhere else, and you just live and die by that car. And you can't. But the good part about that is they finally find a feel that they're looking for. And that's one important thing for a driver. If a driver's not comfortable, he's not going to run fast. And once you find that feel and you understand what that car is, when I was a rookie, I lived with one car forever because I loved that car, but I knew what I was looking for.
You know, one of the smartest things or most honest things I've heard a race car driver say came from that guy, 19-year-old Joey Coulter. He said when he was here 8 weeks ago, he said, I just quit trying to figure this place out. and let me tell you something. The first couple of times you come up here, you scratch your head because these guys, the ARCA series runs Daytona and they run Talladega. They run some big tracks, don't get me wrong, but this is a short track Midwest series predominantly. And to run a place like this, it's almost like a road course. It's a combination of the Daytonas and the Talladegas and the road courses. Has nothing to do with short track racing. So if your background is short track racing, to come here, man, I'm telling you what, it's totally different. It's like flying for the first time. You don't know which way's up and which way's down. The very first ARCA pole sitter at Pocono in 1983 was Bill Venturini. On pit road to his talented daughter, Wendy.
Oh, well, thank you, Steve. Yes, you and Kyle have been talking about the ARCA series, how it brings on a lot of young guns. Joey Coulter is one of those guys. He's 4th in points in the ARCA REMAX series. And to touch on what you were talking about, Kyle, Joey says that's given him a lot of confidence coming into this weekend. We're starting to return to a lot of racetracks we've already visited on the ARCA REMAX series. Joey Coulter has had some momentum on his side. He has 7 top 10s in a row in the ARCA series. Joey Coulter hopes to better his 4th place position he finished here in Pocono in the spring.
And Wendy's exactly right. She grew up with a father that was a race car driver, a brother that was a race car driver. She knows how important confidence is. And having that confidence in the car, but having that confidence in your ability when you come back the second time, that's a big plus.
Restart, Justin Lofton brings him to the green flag, followed by Kligerman, Kimmel, Merrill, Steve Arpin, and Craig Gose. Kligerman looks to the inside, and talk about confidence, Kyle. He told me earlier this week when he came here for the first time 8 weeks ago, Kurt Busch took him around this track and taught him about braking. They went out in a pace car.
Yeah, and you know, it's surprising that you can learn about a race track in a road car from another driver. But being part of the Penske organization, you know, Kurt shared everything. He opened up his soul. He opened up the book and said, this is what's going to make you fast here. You know, these two guys in front have tons of confidence. You got a guy, Kligerman, making a pass for the lead here on the inside. But you see the outside line works here. And it used to, that was not a place you wanted to run, where the 6 car is. But now it works. These two guys are your past 4 or 5 race winners. They've got more confidence than anybody, and they're driving like it.
25 car of Steve Arpin comes over from Eddie Sharp Racing to Venturini Motorsports. That was a battle for 5th.
The best part about this racetrack is the more laps you run, really the more places there are to run on the racetrack, and that's what's pretty cool about it. You see that first corner, you can dive to the inside and look like you're making plenty of time on somebody, but that outside line just picks up down these short chutes. It is a momentum racetrack, and this is something else. These guys are running here for the first time, not shifting. Now, they came here the first race, and they didn't let them shift, but they told them that like a few weeks before, so they didn't have time to get their transmission set. Pass here to the, but we're back to the inside in turn 3. But you see, they didn't have time to get their transmission set, so basically they came, and that was a pass for 3rd. They came here with stuff that was maybe not the best stuff to run this racetrack. This time, they've got the best transmissions and the best stuff to run.
Arpin by the 32, driven by Matt Merrill. Jim Trado has an update on Arpin.
Steve Arpin is in the 25 car for the very first time. He ran every race this year to this point with Eddie Sharp Racing in the number 20. They made a move. Steve Arpin moved over to this team. In practice yesterday, he said, man, I love this race car. He was nearly giddy. He said, don't change a thing, to his crew chief, Billy Venturini. This, by the way, is the same car Joey Logano put a waxing on him here in June. So the very same race car with success. Arpin's happy with the car, and obviously the way he's working to 3rd, he's happy with it early on.
You know, as we were watching that, the 32 car, I think he got a little high coming out of turn 3. And just as we were talking about being a momentum racetrack, he went from 3rd, a pass for 3rd, going into turn 3 over there, to 6th on the racetrack right now because the momentum down this front stretch just killed him. He got passed on the front straight.
Arpin rides in the 3rd position. It's still Justin Laughlin in the 6th and Kligerman in the 77. Kyle, I've got to share this story on Parker Kligerman. His crew chief is a Cup veteran, Chris Carrier, and he told Larry McReynolds he was talking to Parker Kligerman on a Monday after a race, kind of debriefing, And after a minute, Chris Carrier said, "Why are you whispering?" And Kligerman said, "I'm on a school bus and we're not supposed to use our cell phones."
How many race car drivers do you call on the school bus?
He won't turn 19 until a week from today.
That's a great story, man.
Graduated from high school June 19th, then went out and won 4 ARCA races in a row. Said he's going to move to Charlotte from Connecticut here shortly, and he's going to start taking classes at University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Caution out for the second time.
Heavy contact right there.
Lap 10 brings out the second caution. Heavy damage, as Kyle said, to the 70 car driven by Tony Palumbo.
And these cars were running a little bit at the back of the field, so it's hard to really say where, because we were watching the guys come off of turn 4, or excuse me, off of turn 3 down the front stretch when this contact was made, exiting really turn 1.
'82 car driven by Sean Core also involved as we look at what happened.
Ooh, heavy contact. Man, something broke on that car. As you saw that car come up off the corner, it veered dead right. And the one car had no place to go. As he ricochets off the outside wall, he comes back and collects, really basically ends up in the middle of the hood of the one car. But that was, it really didn't look like a tire went down. It didn't look like he cut a tire. It just absolutely veered to the right. The right side tire is still up on this thing.
The one car driven by Brett Butler. There's Butler's car, heavy damage to the front of that race car. Hey, Kyle, the other thing about it is, what has always amazed me about this racetrack is, you talked about the lack of banking, but the speed here is incredibly fast, 170, 180 miles an hour into the corners.
Yeah, it's incredibly deceiving. We talk about some of the short tracks that these guys run. 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour on a flat racetrack is incredibly fast. 180 or 90 miles an hour entering turn 1 with 14 degrees of banking. And then it's not just an oval turn, it turns back on itself. It's almost like making a U-turn. It's incredibly fast how fast they enter that corner. But when we get to the tunnel turn and these other corners, you're floating off in there at 170 or 80 miles an hour, just barely dragging the brake. And it is a deceivingly fast racetrack. I know it's big and I know it's flat and you expect speed on big racetracks, but this place is deceivingly fast.
The lucky dog pass goes to the ageless one, 74-year-old James Hilton.
I think he got the lucky dog just by being 74 years old and driving. I think there's probably a lot of 74-year-olds out there that would like to be in that seat.
James Hilton just loves to race. Let's take another look as we go to break and what happened. Bring out the second caution. Palumbo hard into the wall. Tomorrow on Speed, NASCAR Race Day returns to Pocono. We'll take an in-depth look at Kyle Busch's struggles this season. We'll tell you if he's got what it takes to bounce back and make the chase. Don't miss NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot, live tomorrow, 11 Eastern, here in Pocono and on Speed. Good news is we've gotten word that Tony Palumbo in that 70 car got out of his race car. There he is, putting on his hat. He's okay. Kyle, that is an understatement to say it's great to see, because that was heavy impact.
That was heavy impact at a place where really the soft wall kind of goes away. I thought something broke, but watching the second replay of it, I think the thing got loose and he just overcorrected and went to the outside. This is Brett Butler, the kid that was in the one car that was just an innocent bystander. As the car ricocheted off the wall, landed in the middle of his hood.
So good news, Tony Palumbo okay. We'll take a break, get the racetrack cleaned up, and have more racing. ARCA REMAX Series racing from Pocono. Cleanup continues here at Pocono. Tony Palumbo in the 70 car hits the wall hard. He's okay. Also caught up in that was Brett Butler in the one car. Let's go back to Wendy Venturini.
Want to update you guys on Justin Lofton. Some good conversation during these caution laps in the 6th pit with his crew chief. We thought Parker Kligerman was going to come down pit road. He did the little fake on Justin Lofton, our leader, and the crew chief came over the radio to remind Justin, you know, you can play those mind games too. Feel free to mess with him and fake with him coming down pit road. Right now, Justin Lofton is taking it nice and easy on his entry, getting updates from his spotter, who is Mike Kalanoff, a spotter in the Cup Series. Justin Lofton little bit tight, sliding a little bit, but they do know that the 77 has been pulling him on the backstretch, and they said that has to do with that horsepower. Jim?
And the 77 is Parker Kligerman, who until 25 feet before the commitment cone was coming down pit road. His crew chief called it off at the last second, so as much of it might have been a juke, it was for real. They were going to do a chassis adjustment and 4 tires to get safely in a window where they would only have to pit one more time and make it the rest of the way. What gives this team that confidence is back here in June, they overcame 2 left front tire flat issues on pit road. They got back out of the racetrack and passed all but the first 5 cars to finish 6th here in June, so they may be coming yet again before anyone else just to get that track position, and knowing how fast this race car is and how quickly they went through the field in June until 25 feet before that cone. They were coming this time, so strategy's playing out here on pit road. Not so much faking them, but thinking about for real. But the call was made. If the 1st and 3rd place cars are out, staying out, Parker, stay out. And that's when he moved to the right and got back in line.
You know what's cool about this, after listening to those 2 pit reports and watching these 2 guys, Lofton and Kligerman, we talk about this being a series where young guys have been here, guys have made their career here, older guys. These young guys are learning how to race. They're learning that communication. You and I had a conversation earlier today. The importance of communicating with your crew chief. It's a game. It's a total game. And learning how to communicate what your car's doing, how your car's not doing, when to pit, when not to pit. It's a total package. Used to, we didn't have that opportunity. Kligerman and these guys have an opportunity to work with Carrier, who is a Cup crew chief, who has Cup experience. When you take that and you're 19, 20 years old, and you come to the next series up and you start climbing the ladder, huge advantage.
There's Chris Carrier. You've just bought experience when you've got a Harold Holly or a Chris Carrier on your pit box.
Yeah, this is huge. And you know, this is such a great series for that. This is as close as you can get to a Cup car without driving a Cup car. The Nationwide Series is not this close. The trucks are not close. This is as close as you get. And this is why so many guys like Joey Logano that we've seen in the past, and Montoya, myself, so many guys started and ran some races in this series. It's a great series.
Been some familiar names who have won here in ARCA competition. Casey Mears, Ryan Newman, Scott Riggs, Casey Atwood, Joey Logano, and Blaze Alexander, to name just a few. We'll continue to get this racetrack cleaned up and come back for the restart here at the Pocono Raceway. Stay with us here on Speed. Still under caution here at the Pocono Raceway. Want to mention the 20 car of Mike Holt, the 89 of Chris Lafferty, the 70 of Tony Palumbo, the 1 of Brett Butler, the 83 of Charlie Vest in the garage, either with mechanical trouble or the victim of accidents here early in the going. We have an 80-lap race. We have completed 16. Kyle, we mentioned at the top of this broadcast about Frank Kimmel, what a fabulous career he's had. 9 championships. If he leads 6 laps, 10,000 lead in a career. It's phenomenal.
That is phenomenal. Like we said in the beginning, that's a Michael Jordan stat. That's a Tiger Woods stat. Those are stats that you see in other sports that you just drop your jaw at. You know what I mean? And I think we've seen Kimmel do this, and he's a very unassuming guy. There's his brother. They've got their own team now. They're doing their own thing, but he's a very unassuming guy. You would never know that he's won the championships, that he's won the races at places like Daytona, at Pocono, at big places. I mean, places that when you throw them out there, people are like, you won at Daytona? My God, man, that's huge, and it is for these guys.
Kyle, one of the coolest honors, I think, accorded Frank Kimmel was when he was chosen to race in the IROC series a few years ago. And I think everybody, in not just stock car racing, motorsports, thought, it's about time. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was. You know, you can't ignore the fact this is a series that runs all over the United States. It's a touring series, just as NASCAR is, or the IRL, or NHRA, any other series. And it has great sponsors. Look at those stats, man. When you start throwing up stats like that, those are Hall of Fame stats in any sport in the world, no matter what. And I think when he was elevated, and you had an ARCA driver who came out and was elevated to that level to say, hey, these guys are out there with Tony Stewart, champions from open wheels, champions from Kinzer, and those guys from sprint car racing, then it totally changed the way people looked at this type of racing. And I know from Kimmel's standpoint, it was a very humbling experience. He did a great job, too.
Jim Trado.
Little update on how this driver can win 3 races at Pocono with his brother Bill Kimmel. I'm talking about Frank Kimmel on the 44 car. This team has sponsorship this year. They're doing a lot better building race cars, but they also know how to win races. On lap 2 under caution, his brother Bill Kimmel said, save fuel. Never too early to save fuel here at Pocono. They're trying to maybe make it on a one-stop thing, a one-stop stop. Update quickly on the 32 guys. is that he was a little bit loose. And now Frank Kimmel comes down pit road here. A little bit unexpected, but they were talking under caution here about changing these tires. There was only 3 laps of green flag racing on these tires, but Frank Kimmel wants to put on fresh Hoosier radial, so he'll do just that. No, he won't. Take that back. Just a chassis adjustment, so the tires will stay on the car. Chassis adjustment topping off for fuel for Frank Kimmel, so the thought of Parker Kligerman maybe doing one more stop with fuel may play into Kimmel's hand, as he's the only car in the lead pack to come down pit road. Guys?
Yeah, but I think now what Kimmel has done is change the race, where you say at 30-some laps, it's almost a 2-stop strategy at best. You know, you run 20 or 30 laps, stop, run 30 or 40 laps, stop, and then you finish the race. Now he's only got to stop one more time. So I think he's playing the track position game. Obviously, not a lot of these races go green for a long period of time, especially at a place like this. But I think he's playing that track position game right now to be able to put himself, when these guys have to pit later under caution or under green, whichever way, he's on a totally different race strategy.
He's giving up track position, but he will get it later on.
But he'll get it. It's going to come back to him. This early in the race, when you're 13 laps into an 80-lap race, the track position will come back to him.
Back to Jim.
Hey guys, I'm just starting to talk about Matt Morrell in the 32 with Wintron Racing. This kid has been a great story. 4 top 5 finishes this year. He was up in the top 5. We noticed he was drifting back a bit, so I went back to his crew chief, Mike Chaffee, down pit road. I said, what was the issue? He said, the car was just a little bit loose, but they also were talking about fuel strategy early on and trying to stay fuel. This team has 2 wins this year as James Busher behind the wheel. We'll see what the future holds, as this may be Morrell's last race in the 32 car. Wendy?
Brian Silas, who's running 8th right now, came into this race at Pocono 6th in points. Now, Brian has been a little bit tight in the few laps that we've had under green, pushing off turn 3 right now. But good news for Brian Silas, he's recently engaged. Take him off the single list. He proposed to his longtime girlfriend, Misty, and I asked them if a date had been set yet. They said probably in 2010, so the wedding's far off, but congratulations to Brian Silas, who's recently engaged.
Did she say probably?
Probably. I think she said probably.
The deal's sealed, but it's
probably. Probably sealed.
I don't like that. Back underway on lap 19. It's still Justin Lofton in the 6, Parker Kligerman in the 77, Steve Arpin in the 25, and the 81 of Craig Gose. Kligerman looks on the bottom. And Kyle, again, the mentality of what these guys are thinking here on lap 18, almost 19.
Yeah, and these guys right here, you see them door to door going over the tunnel, and this looks, man, nobody likes to go too wide over the tunnel. That was great racing right there. And that is great racing. And as you get here, you'll see the 77 dive to the inside, to the bottom. But the 6 has the preferred line, and the 77 has to give it up. So from turn 1 all the way to turn 3, it's a side-by-side race for the lead, and then you have to give it up. And it's a give-and-take racetrack. We talk about it being a compromise racetrack, but it's give and take. But these guys right here are thinking, this is the only guy. Kligerman's thinking, I've only got to race Lofton. Lofton's thinking, I've only got to race Kligerman. They're not thinking about anything else. And as when we went to break, you're talking about Kimmel here. All Kimmel's thinking is, hey, all I got to do is let this thing play out, and I'm in the catbird seat.
Kyle, also a great battle for 3rd. That's Gose in the 81, Steve Arpin in the 25. They're nose to tail.
These cars are like the cars that you see on the Nationwide Series, or the Cup cars before we went to the COT. These cars have a lot of downforce, which is a great car to learn to drive in. When you can learn to drive with downforce, it's a great benefit for young drivers. And you see these guys with this much talent in this series, see him look to the inside, peek to the inside. He's got his right side right in the preferred line. He may get a decent run off of turn 3 here. Has to fall back in line, it looks like. But at the same time, this is really where you can, especially on cold tires, you can test the guy in front of you a little bit.
Kyle, Dick Trickle told me years ago here at Pocono that early in a race, he would put his car in positions, as we watched the battle for the lead, behind a car, to the right of a car, to the left of a car, just to see how it would react.
Yeah, and you have to. You know, you have to learn. And right now, here's the thing. Kligerman's learning a lot more than Lofton is, because he's trying him to the inside, he's trying him to the outside, he's dropping back, he's running up on him. All Lofton's learning is, I got to run as hard as I can to stay ahead right now. But the thing is, you do that during the course of the race. You try different lines. You see these guys come across the tunnel, they're right down on the inside, then they'll try up a lane and a half or so. You'll see him, now you see Kligerman go in the corner. Now he's in the preferred line. He's not run through this corner in the preferred line but a couple of times during this race, because he's been fighting for the lead both times. So I think when you see this, just as Trickle says, you're trying to learn every lap. If you don't learn something every lap out here, best thing to do is go to the garage area get your head straight and come back out again.
That's
Because
right.
it's constantly changing.
Let's go back to Jim Trado on Kligerman.
Kligerman is a student of Chris Carrier and what they were discussing. Under caution, it came about where I thought I was maybe having a bad signal, but Chris Carrier's communication to Parker Kligerman is not 100%. Parker said it's about 10%. Then Carrier said, switch off the fan by your radio, see if that changes it. It does not. So indeed, if he gets the lead or if there are changes to be made, they may not hear what those changes may be. So a communication issue building here in the 77 pit. Wendy?
The 4 car of Dakota Armstrong has a strong start. So far in Pocono, running 8th right now. Dakota has 3 other starts in the ARCA REMAX Series for 2009. His best finish came at Iowa Speedway, where he finished 6th. He's driving for Cunningham Motorsports in that Dodge. Dakota hopes to gain some experience today at Pocono, like many of our young rookies in the field.
When did we see Cunningham on the side of the 4 car? Also on the side of the 77 car, that team has an alliance with Penske Racing. Kyle Petty talking about it earlier, the advantage that a young driver has when he can pick the brain of a Kurt Busch or a Justin Allgaier.
Yeah, when you have that advantage from a driver's standpoint, but even from a crew standpoint, when you know what Kurt run up here, you know what Ryan has run in the past, or now you know what Hornish and those guys ran with this style car, man, you're light years ahead of these other guys when you come to the racetrack.
Kligerman still looking hard at the lead. Kyle, then you just worry about driving. You don't worry about adjustments. You don't worry about the mechanical part of it.
Yeah, because you figure when Kurt Busch tells you something, it's a fact, Jack. That's the way it is. You know, he's won at this racetrack. He's led at this racetrack. So if I'm Kyle Petty and I'm just starting off and Kurt Busch tells me, hey, you're doing it all wrong, guess what? Kyle Petty's going to say, I'm doing it all wrong. I need to do it like Kurt Busch. And that's one of the advantages that these guys have by working with a top-notch team.
Working lap 23 here at Pocono Raceway. Glad you're with us. Justin Lofton and Parker Kligerman with a great battle at the front. Just behind them, it's the 81 of Ghost, the 25 of Arpin, Joey Coulter in the 16. Stay with us here on Speed. I'm so glad we're back from commercial because Kligerman and Lofton have been going at it, Kyle Petty.
Yeah, they are, and now they're getting into traffic, and traffic is a huge problem at this place because if you catch traffic in the wrong place, and these guys were right on each other's bumper when we went to break. We come back, they caught 3 or 4 cars, and now there's 6 or 7, 10 car lengths between them, and that's tough. You got to make the hay when you can, when the sun shines, you know what I mean? And when a car gets in your way across the tunnel turn or going into that turn 3 where you've got to get so much momentum down the straightaway, it kills you. Kligerman caught a car in a bad place, and now he's 8 or 10 cars back.
25 cars on the lead lap. Lap 26 of 80 here at the Pocono Raceway. Kyle, I'm wondering also, you talked about the separation now between Lofton and Kligerman. Perhaps Kligerman said, all right, I made a run at him. I pulled up alongside of him. Now I'm going to take care of my equipment a little bit.
And that's one thing he does have to do. You know, you can't be abusing your tires lap after lap after lap after lap. We're 26 laps into a race. We've already said the pit window is 30 to 35 laps. So he's only got 9 or 10 laps left on this set of tires. So to back up, give it a breather, let me count on my pit crew. Let me get down pit road good. Let me get a good pit stop, and maybe they can pass it. They can get me out in front of the 6 car. I can get back out there. At the same time, I got to rest these tires for a little bit. I can't keep punishing them.
Allie Owens in the 19 car runs in the 10th position, 21 years old. She's from Florida. I kind of like Allie Owens, Kyle. She likes working on 4x4 mud vehicles. I like that.
I'm telling you what, when you read this girl's bio, you can see why she drives a race car.
Yep.
She loves motorized anything, according to that. Believe me. And what a great program. She's so fiery about her racing. You can tell. You know, I think so many times you see and you hear about minorities or you hear about women coming into the sport, and you think, it's a gimmick. That could be a little bit of a gimmick. You look at this chick, and I'm telling you, man, she's wanting to race. She's wanting to beat these guys so bad, she can't see straight. And I mean, all the stuff we've been reading about her over the last few weeks and over the last day or so, I mean, this is a good team. They come out here to run. They didn't come out here to ride around.
ElectrifyingCareers.com on the hood of her race car. That is actually, she helps promote awareness to get young people involved. Her professionally in the electrical business.
Yeah, and that's cool. You know, and she was part of, I think Lynn St. James has a great forum for women in motorsports, and she was part of that in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago. I was reading some stuff about it. And that's great that they're recognized that way, because this is a part of the sport that needs to grow, that needs to flourish. Wendy grew up in the sport. She saw how the sport has evolved and how it's evolved for so many other places for women in this sport. And there's no reason that a woman can't drive a race car, and we're seeing it out here today.
Let's go back to Jim on pit road. Excuse me, Wendy.
Well, I want to talk about Rob Brent, who's had a top 10 run so far here at Pocono, running 9th right now. He's had a few top 10s this season, 4 of them with his best finish coming right here in the spring when he finished 7th. So Rob Brent hopes to better that 7th place finish here at Pocono, gain some more experience. He's 11th in points right now. He hopes here in the ARCA series to get into the top 10. You know, in Cup, we're so used to top 12, but here in ARCA, you want to end up in that top 10 to end up across the stage at the end of the year banquet. Jim?
Guys, real quick, we'll talk about the pass for the lead on the racetrack and what a great run that was going to the inside. My thoughts are on the 60 right now, Patrick Shelter, because that team is very excited about coming back to Pocono. They had one of their better runs this year. They won at Salem on the short track, but they also finished 3rd here in this race car in June. A small shock adjustment before the race seems to be paying off. They're settled in at about 12th right now. They'll come down here on the next opportunity for fresh tires and try to go the distance. The window may be 40 laps for some of these teams. These guys will want to cut it close.
Jim Patrick Shelter, 8th in points. Race number 13 of this 2009 season. Well, Kyle, so much for my analysis of Parker Kligerman saving his equipment.
Yeah, so much for our analysis, because I chimed in on it too. But I'm going to say this. That was impressive, because he dropped back 8 car lengths, 10 car lengths, ran him down, passed him, and now pulled away a couple of car lengths. So that's impressive. You can tell that Kligerman has the car, and now in fresh air, or with nobody in front of him to disrupt the air in front of him, we'll see where he goes from there.
Justin Lofton led the first 29 laps. Now it's Kligerman at the point. He's followed by Lofton, Arpin, Craig Ghost, Joey Coulter, and Matt Merrill. Let's take another look at the pass for the lead, Kyle.
You see him, he gets a run, and I think this is a run up off the first corner. He gets position over the tunnel, and now we're, 30 laps into the run. Those tires are just not going to hold you on the outside. And you almost see Lofton say, okay, your place. You've been bothering me for the last 25 or 30 laps. I'm going to let you have it. And you see Kligerman takes it down in there, gives him plenty of room. You see the run up off of turn 1. He got a great run. It looked like the Lofton car pushed up, or maybe got a little free right there, but he just got such a great run that he took position. There's nothing you can do as far as the 6 car is concerned at this point.
Wendy.
And the 6 at Justin Lofton keeps getting tighter and tighter as the run goes on. The crew chief and the spotter have been reminding Justin Lofton to concentrate from that center off. And he was getting tight right there, Kyle. As you just mentioned, they've made some air pressure adjustments in these tires sitting here on the other side of pit road, waiting for that caution to come out, come down pit road, and free him up a little bit.
Wendy, also want to mention James Hilton has gone to the garage area. 74-year-old James Harvey.
74.
Done for the day.
Hey,
he had fun.
It's time for supper. You got to get the early bird.
Speed's coverage of the ARCA REMAX Series is brought to you by Aaron's. Nobody beats Aaron's. Nobody. By MagnaFlow Performance Exhaust. A hot rod isn't a hot rod until it sounds like one. And by K&N, the world's best air filter. Back at the Pocono Raceway, Parker Kligerman in the 77 continues to lead. He's ahead of Justin Laughlin. The 90 car driven by Gabby DiCarlo, but that is not for position.
And this is where you got to be careful as a leader. And you saw him kind of drop down to the inside, slow down a little bit to make sure the 90 car saw him, because he is so good. Kligerman is so good, and he and Lofton are so much better, it seems like, than 70% of the field as far as that goes, that you can't just force an issue. You've got to really bide your time here.
Kligerman just putting DiCarlo a lap down. Completed 34 of 80 laps. 2 caution flags for a total of 13 laps. Boy, talk about veterans. How about Lebanon, Pennsylvania's Bobby Gerhardt in the 5 and Frank Kimmel in the 44.
You know, you could stop the camera right here and superimpose an ARCA race from 20 years ago here, and it's going to be the same thing. Kimmel and Gerhardt going door to door across the tunnel or across turn 3 and down the front stretch. You know, they're a little bit farther back in the pack right now. Kimmel's put himself there. Gerhardt's running there, but Kimmel has put himself there with their pit strategy. And as we start to see some of these guys start to make their pit stops in the next few laps, we'll see how Kimmel's strategy is going to play out.
Yeah, Kimmel 14th right now. Remember, he stopped on lap 17, topped off on gas. Kyle said he's created his own strategy.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, maybe he's gambling to say, okay, if this really works out for me, I'm going to get my 6 laps and I'm going to get my 10,000 laps in, because it could cycle that way. You know, he's 14th. They've lapped up to the 20th or 21st first place position. And if we do get to green flag stops, and let me say something, these cars aren't used to making a lot of green flag stops on speedway racing. They don't do that a lot. Some of these guys have cup teams and cup members that help them. But when they get to that, there could be a separation here. But when you look at that, Kimmel's going to be the guy that moves to the top of the heat.
See Kimmel's record here, Pocono, a 3-time winner. It's fascinating to watch him as he goes into turn 1. Taking a look in the rearview mirror. And Kyle, as you said, this race can get strung out a little bit, so you've got to be aware of the traffic. Who's on the lead lap, who isn't, and how fast are they?
And how fast they are. Here's a battle for the 3rd position with the 25 and the 16. But I think when you look at it, it's, you know, we talked about this being a sprint race in the beginning. Kimmel has changed this race from a sprint race to a strategy race.
Yes.
Now, it's hard to believe you can institute and implement strategy in a short race, but I think they chose to do that from the very, very beginning. If you do that from the very beginning, that's okay. But this is not like other series that you watch where these guys make their call on the last pit stop and everything changes, or the last 45 laps of the race.
16 car driven by 19-year-old Joey Coulter. Now, we talked about experience on the pit box as Craig goes by him in the 81. Coulter has Harold Holly. Harold Holly began his career. He's from Alabama, worked with Alan Kulwicki, and worked his way up to become a crew chief. Helped Jeff Green win the Nationwide Championship in 2000.
Yeah, that's a champion crew chief.
Yes, sir.
You know, has been in the Cup Series with Cal Wells and with other drivers. With Bobby Hamilton Jr. has won races, numerous races in the NASCAR Series and all the NASCAR Series. And when you look at it, here's the leader coming down pit road. So this could play into Kimmel's area, but to have a guy like Harold Holly making the calls that are great for you.
Jim Trado.
Parker Kligerman comes down pit road as crew chief is calling for 4 tires, small adjustments. He's going to go around out on the track bar to get that car to handle better. He asked about the water gauge. It's fine, it's 190, so he said don't clean off the grill. Once we got a clean air, it cooled it down. They're going to do 4 tires here. They also said, Jackman, make sure you look at the fuel, man, before you drop the jack. Make sure it's got every ounce of gas as possible in this 77 Cunningham Dodge for Parker Kligerman. The Blue Juice boys from Penske now pushing that car as it stalls here on pit road for Kligerman under green.
Okay,
still not fired.
And every minute, every second they're pushing this thing, he's losing valuable time on the racetrack. At 180 or 90 miles an hour, you're technically traveling about 100 yards. That's what I've been told. I'm not a mathematician, so let me clear. A second. So when you have to push that thing off for 2 or 3 seconds, you've lost 300 yards. Now think about where Lofton was behind him. Lofton was only about 6 or 7 car lengths. So if Lofton has a decent pit stop, theoretically he should come back out ahead. Never works the way I explained it, but maybe it will this time.
Justin Lofton on pit road. Wendy, headed your way.
We have an air pressure change and a right rear track bar up 1 round on the 6 of Justin Lofton. He's decided to come down pit road 1 lap after our leader. Right behind him will be the 16 of Joey Coulter. 4 tires and fuel for both the 6 and the 16. Now, Justin Lofton has been complaining about needing help turning in this car. He has been tight all race long, especially when Parker Kligerman got around him on the 16 of Joey Coulter. Some crew chief debating between the 6 and the 16. Harold Holly decided to bring the 16 of Joey Coulter down pit road along with Justin Lofton. Joey Coulter made a wedge adjustment to free it up. 4 tires and fuel for him.
So green flag stops continue here at the Pocono Raceway, working lap number 38. Coulter getting back up to speed. And Kyle, you made a great point. These teams aren't used to making green flag pit stops, and there's so much pressure now. We just saw Kligerman give up spots on pit road.
Yeah, because it's predominantly a short track series in a lot of ways. There's so many cautions on short tracks. They're able to under their rules and the way they do things, pit under caution a lot. And that's critical, don't get me wrong, but it's not as critical as getting in and out of the pits and having a great, clean pit stop on pit road. And that, making that mistake of stalling the car, is just something you learn. Everybody's done it forever, but it's just something you learn.
It's Brian Silas in the 11 car. That's a 4-tire stop on his Fast Track Racing Ford. Silas gave up the 4th position to hit pit road. Arpin in the 25, now in command of the race, followed by the 81 of Craig Gose. '25-year-old Steve Arpin continues to lead here. He inherited the lead with Kligerman and Lofton pitted.
Yeah, and these guys are at lap 40. I really thought the pit window was going to be,
trouble. That's Tom Burt in the 35, and also trouble for the 4 of Dakota Armstrong.
That car is killed. Okay, the 4 car. The other car was in the wreck, trying to avoid it. Dakota comes down, but as you saw that car ramp up, the front suspension on that car has got to be pointed in 16 different directions, it seems like. And that's bad for Kimmel, okay? Because that totally changes Kimmel's strategy. Now he's lumped back into the pack, and he can't capitalize on the move that they had made.
A lot of damage on Tom Burt's number 35. Caution out for the 3rd time here at Pocono. We've had 3 cautions for a total of 14 laps.
And it looked like the 35 just got in the corner, got away from him, slapped it with the right rear, comes back up with the right front, and then he just tried to keep it out of the way and keep it up next to the wall, comes back up into the wall with the right front one more time, and you know, spins out of the way.
Just to take another look at what happened.
See, he's loose right there. The car slaps with the right rear. He's down a little bit. It breaks loose again, and he comes back up. And now he's just on the brakes trying to get it out of the way.
Oh,
see the 4 car. The 4 car hit right in the worst place. And the other bad part about that is we've had so much rain up here. It's just so soft when that 4 car gets down in it. You see him, he's way to the high side. You see the tires, see the marks on the asphalt as he's putting down rubber there. And the thing gets away from him. That's just, you know, there's nothing you can do. There's a lot of marbles, a lot of trash up there when you get in that high. But look at that 4 car. Wow. That 4 car hits hard twice, man.
As Kyle said, there's been a lot of rain here in the Pocono region. We had heavy rain yesterday. There was rain earlier this week. You see Tom Burt into the wall. They can bang on that hood all they want, Kyle. That car sustained heavy damage.
All the aero just went out the window on that car, believe me. You know, and all they're really trying to do is get the fenders off the tires. And if he's running for points, now we see the leader and the 2nd place guy come down pit road. So they're taking advantage of the caution where everybody else had to pit under green. Jim?
Catching that break and getting the caution before they came down pit road for the first time is the 25 of Steve Arpin out of Ontario, Canada, running with Billy Venturini. A very small adjustment to help a tight condition off of turn number 1 for this team. They came in with the lead. They hope to go out in very good position with only a 1-stop strategy. This is the car Logano won with in June. Arpin's been happy all day. Just that small adjustment, and he's down and away after 4 tires and fuel. Wendy?
Bobby Gerhart comes to a stop. They're going to take 2 rubbers out of that rear and also make a track bar adjustment. Bobby Gerhart obviously not happy with a lot of those adjustments. They also have to pull the windshield. They were worried about running out of fuel. They had to take it very easy about coming to a stop before they got down pit road. A little bit of trouble on the right front getting that rubber out. It seems like they've got it out now. Guys come around to the left-hand side. They are going to keep with the 4-tire stop. Still not up on the jack on the left-hand side for Bobby Gerhart. A lot of adjustments, major adjustments for Bobby Gerhart's 5 machine. The tear-off comes out. Slow stop, but it's going to be worth it for Bobby Gerhart when we go back green.
Yeah, long stop for Bobby Gerhart, the veteran 51 years old from Lebanon, Pennsylvania. 6 ARCA wins, all coming at Daytona or Talladega. Oh, the catch can still attached to the 77 car. That's going to be a penalty.
That's going to be a penalty. And the problem is the 77 car came down to change their strategy. They had just pit. They really didn't have to come back down pit road. They were on the same sequence with Lofton. Come down pit road and you make a mistake on pit road. We saw it in Indy in the Cup race last week. How many times does the perfect race go all to you know what right on pit road because of a mistake you make? You know, you think speed's all about racing. It's not. It's about stopping in that little pit box a lot of times and getting your job done and getting back out there. And this is going to cost this team because this team had a shot to win. Not that they can't come back from it, but this is going to knock them back a little bit.
Under caution for the 3rd time, the 35 car. Tom Burt into the wall. Dakota Armstrong also caught up. Stay with us here at Pocono. Still working our 3rd caution here at the Pocono Raceway. Steve Arpin is the leader. He's followed by Justin Lofton in the 6, Craig Ghost in the 81, and Matt Merrill in the 32. Frank Kimmel, we talked about his strategy, rides in the 5th position. Kimmel, the 9-time champion, in the 44 car.
Yeah, and conspicuously, or maybe not so much, missing from that top 5 is, where's my man Kligerman, who had pitted and had an issue, obviously. That was an opportunity for him to be back in the top 5 at this point in time, but a pit road incident has taken him out a little bit.
Remember, he came back. He lost a left front tire twice here 8 weeks ago. Came back to finish on the lead lap, so we'll see if he can do it again. Now, let's go back to Jim Trado.
Hey guys, an update on Parker Kligerman and the strategy with crew chief Chris Carrier, who just told me we had to come down pit road under that caution because we ran out of fuel in lap 37. This is an 80-lap race, so we had to come down for fuel. Then the catch can got stuck. So as disappointed as these guys are, you guys mentioned coming back through the field. He was a rocket here in June, and Chris Carrier said, I believe they're good to go now, but he could not go the distance. That's why they had to come down for pit road for fuel, and the catch can caught him. And it has him now at the tail end of the longest line on this restart, so we'll see how much fun it'll be for Parker to get through this field. Again, they're still trying to tell him to save fuel because we're just at that breaking point for his fuel mileage. He's not getting as good a mileage as other teams here on pit road.
And who did we see atop that pit box a moment ago, Kyle? You talked about resources. Pat Trison, the crew chief for Kurt Busch.
Yeah, and Pat's out there wanting to know what the racetrack's doing. Is it getting looser? Is it getting tighter? What's your fuel mileage? You know, we're talking about fuel mileage. These are a lot of the same engine components and combinations that they'll run tomorrow in the other Penske cars. So he's learning from this race.
That's a two-way street in terms of resources.
Yes, it is.
Well, Brian Silas in the 11 car gets the lucky dog pass from Aaron's. We are past halfway. You heard Jim talking about the fuel mileage. Lap 44, lap 45 of 80 now in the books. Let's take a look at our race summary. Steve Arpin in the 25 car is your leader. We've had 5 lead changes. Average speed slowed by 3 caution flags. 11 cars to the garage. That's your MagnaFlow Performance Exhaust race summary. So work continues to the wall. 35 car driven by Tom Burt hit it hard. We'll finish cleaning up the track and be right back to restart the race here at Pocono. Pace car about to head to pit road. The 36 of Brent, the 60 of Shelter, the 2 of George, and the 29 of Mikey Kyle on the tail end of the lead lap. The leader is Steve Arpin in the 25, and the green flag flies here at Pocono on lap number 46.
I love that shot. I don't care. I can see that shot a million times. There they are, 7 and 8 wide, it almost looks like, you know, from space on the racetrack.
Kyle, the first time I came to the track, I could not believe that after 3,700 feet, you could turn left there. Yeah, and you could not believe it.
Let me tell you something. The last race I run here, I couldn't believe you could still do it, believe me, because it's such a long straightaway. As you see Lofton right back up there where he left off, really before the pit stops and before the cycle. And those fresh tires, there he is back up there at the front of the pack. And with clean air, we've seen him be able to get away. You know, so, but it's incredible. When you come off of this corner, come off of turn 3, and this is great racing right after restart when you go back. And everybody's got on cool tires and everybody's had a chance to catch their breath and get a drink of water. but it is a long straightaway, and you get down there, and like I said, it's not an oval. It's not like it just continues on around. It turns and comes back on itself.
We talked about Parker Kligerman, the 5-time winner, having trouble on pit road. Jim Trado has an update.
Guys, what ended up happening was they came down on pit road. They had the fuel catch can stay in the car. So that penalty as he went around the whole racetrack was tail end of the longest line. So Chris Carrier knew they were 12th, last car in the lead lap. So under this most recent caution, they came down and put 4 tires on this car. So not only are they in their fuel window, they got 4 fresh Hoosier radials as well.
Big trouble again for the 4 car of Dakota Armstrong.
Okay, and you see this thing's on fire. We're going to have to see the replay to see what happened exactly. But they've patched this thing back together. Remember, the 4 car is the car that ramped up over the inner loop, the roads, as he went down. And it's going to be interesting to see whether the car caught on fire or whether he got into the wall and then the car caught on fire.
Yeah,
he's got he inhaled a lot of smoke, and that is, I can't tell you, if you've ever been in an electrical fire and you know how that just takes the oxygen out of the air, so does an oil fire when you're sitting behind it and can't get pulled over.
Kyle, to be honest, I'm surprised that 4 car continued on after the impact that it made in the grass, getting out of the way of the 35 car of Tom Burt.
Yeah, I was too, and it'll be interesting to see when we see this restart. You hate to speculate on it, but it's almost like when he hit the wall and you see where he's pulled over at the end of the front stretch down here, and you see the stream of oil. It's almost like he ripped the oil lines off when that thing ramped. And now when he started running and they're under pressure and he's running again, it just drug an oil line off or something like that, and the car flamed up. Because I don't really believe, from what we're seeing where he's at on the racetrack, there's not really a place where he could have spun and got into a wall somewhere.
4th caution flag of the day coming on lap 48 of our 80-lap event. Justin Lofton in the 6 still has the lead. We'll see the tail end of what happened to the 4 car driven by Dakota Armstrong. I mean, he's really not even up to speed.
No, he's not. It just flames up.
We'll be right back. Get the latest news and commentary from SpeedTV.com personalities and NASCAR experts like Chris Devoda, Jimmy Spencer, Tom Jensen, Bob Dillner, and more. Look for Voices of Speed on SpeedTV.com every week. And before we restart, I must say I go to SpeedTV.com often, but Kyle, I went to NASCAR.com to watch your piece, your essay, your commentary, if you will, on what you love best about the summertime. I'm not going to ruin it. I'm just going to say I agree with you.
Yeah, look, how can you not, if you're a guy, how can you not agree with me? How'd you like my mankini?
Oh, your Borat mankini was spectacular.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, people.
But, you know, as we were in commercial break, we saw a picture of a family taking a picture of their child. But you and I were talking, this is where you spent summer vacations as a kid, at the racetracks.
Yeah, at racetracks all over. I've been coming up here, and I'm 49 years old. I've been coming to this racetrack since 68 or 69.
There's our family.
There's the family with their child in a race car, and hopefully that kid won't grow up to be a race car and driver and change that family's life. But at the same time, my father came and ran the ARCA race, or the USAC races up here with Butch Hartman and guys like that, AJ Foyt, all the guys when they ran open wheel racing, and it was just a great place to come. And we spent a lot of time in Pocono and Michigan and Daytona. I tell people all the time, I thought the ocean only touched the United States in Daytona Beach, Florida, because that's the only time we saw it. We never went to the beach.
What a sitcom that would have been. The King and his kids, your mom Linda in the station wagon, and your sister's going, Kyle's leg is touching me, and the King jams another trophy in the back. That would have been great.
You don't know how true that was. There's a line in the middle of this taxi. Do not cross this line.
Kyle's leg is touching me.
Don't touch me. And you know, and the King at the time, he smoked cigars, which, you know, that's probably why I'm brain damaged like I am right now, because of all the cigar smoke in the car when you're growing up. Thank goodness they've changed some of those rules.
Let's go to Wendy.
You know, families travel in these nice motorhomes. Back in the day when I was a kid, we traveled in the white cube truck. And watching that photo when I saw it pop up, Kyle, 1979 Daytona, you don't want to know how old I was. You really don't. I was probably about a week old. I was born in January '79. So I'm sure I was 3 weeks old in my first racetrack. Have been here ever since. It seems like coming to the Poconos for years. But let's talk about the leader, Justin Lofton. Now, we do know that when we go on these long green flag runs, he tends to to fall off. His crew chief was reminding him to be easy on the tires. When he passed the 25, he was afraid he was going to use up too much of his tires. He needs to save his tires for the end of the race. He knows Parker's just not too far off, and he is another guy that's a class of the field. Mark made a comment, his crew chief, to Justin about the 25 not falling off on the times on those final laps like the 6 to Justin Lofton. So Justin has to be very easy on those tires for the end of the race. Jim?
Lofton's teammates hit third. It's the 81 of Craig Ghost in the Gainesville Toyota, number 81. And this team has Patrick Donahue on the box. He was part of the Rainbow Warriors at Jeff Gordon when they won Cup championships. He now has turned his attention full-time to Eddie Sharp Racing and is a veteran crew chief who had a great call. It was as if they won the race here. When the caution came out, they were out on the racetrack. When the caution came, they had yet to come down pit road. Patrick Donahue made 2 huge adjustments, took 2 left rear rubbers out and a round down on the track bar. After major changes and a guess before the race, Craig Ghost is in a great seat right now with the veteran crew chief sitting in third.
All right, thank you, Jim. Double file restart for the ARCA REMAX Series drivers. Restart coming on lap 55 of lap 80. It's Lofton, Arpin, Ghost, Merrill, Kimmel, and Coulter. Also want to mention Tom Hessert in the 09. In the 7th position, Justin Marks, Bobby Gerhardt, and Brian Silas rounding out the top 10. It's Kligerman in 11th.
And you know, being 11th, you know, Kligerman, the trouble he's been through with the pit stop and with having the pit and come back and take all that out, 11th is not bad, because we saw him come from 8 or 10 car lengths behind to take the lead. So these guys, he's not out of this race by any stretch of the imagination with 25 laps to go.
Want to mention, too, Rob Brent in the 36 car got the lucky dog.
Wow, this is... He barreled that thing on down in there to get to the inside. But you see the car begin to push up right there, and you have to check up at that last little bit, which gives Justin Lofton that little bit of a run, and that's the momentum. Side by side going into 3 car lengths at the end of the front stretch, because the 25 car has to just feather out of it. Apron has to feather out of it just a little bit and pedal it up off the corner.
Remember, Kyle, when this race started, Justin Lofton trailed Parker Kligerman by 100 points.
And we talked about, you know, you talked about in the pre-race how he chopped 50 points off of it last week. If the race ended right now, which the race is not going to end right now, and I hate it when announcers say that. So
we just did it.
Let me clarify that.
I do
okay,
too.
but that's another 50, and that's the point we made. You can catch up and take big chunks out of points leads in this thing. So if you're 300 or 400 points out and in 4th or 5th place, you are not out of the championship by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, we're watching Steve Arpin in the 25. He came in here 7th in points.
And you know, Steve has done a great job. When you look at this, he was mired back in traffic 4th or 5th, 6th, running in dirty air, the dreaded dirty air that you hear in all forms of motorsports anymore. You never really knew what he had. All of a sudden, he's up here racing one-on-one with Lofton, and now he's got something. You know, he's maybe not quite as good as Lofton. He loses a little bit on the exit of the corner, whether his car's a little tight or a little loose. Hard to tell from up here, but he loses a little bit, and this is a momentum track, again, because they're not able to shift.
Good battle there. Joey Coulter in the 16. Going by the 60. Patrick Sheltra is a lap down, but the 32 car of Matt Merrill is not, and Merrill closes in on Coulter.
But you saw that. That's basically, as you look at that, that's the tunnel turn. And when they go into that turn, you saw how the 16 had to slow up and make sure the 60 car gave him room, and the 32 car just barrels in on him. And it's all about momentum. It's all about not catching traffic in the wrong places.
Battle for 5th, and there comes Kligerman. Kligerman now behind Merrill. So Kligerman up into the 7th spot. And Kyle, you know, it goes back to confidence, even for an 18-year-old. He had 2 left front flat tires here 7-8 weeks ago. So he knows he can come back.
And, you know, from a driver's perspective, you're exactly right. He knows he can come back. He came back from it. He felt like he had a faster car. You heard him in the pre-race. We had a car that could outrun the leader. We were just in the wrong place on the racetrack. We weren't racing with the leader. All right? At the same time, you take a kid like that, he thinks this racetrack owes him something, okay? So he's out to get what this racetrack owes him. It's not that he's racing and just out here trying to beat the leader. He's trying to beat the leader, the 4 cars in front of him, plus to show the racetrack, hey, I got something for you. I know how to get around this place.
Let's go back to Jim Trado.
And guys, believe it or not, under the last caution, Kligerman came down pit road one more time. mentioned the water temp only being 190 on that long discussion. They said, hey, we're tail end anyway. After they changed tires, they came back in again and put just the smallest piece of tape on the center of the nose to get Kligerman's car sealed off to the racetrack. They're not worried about temps. They packed it with fuel again, so Kligerman's charge through is due to a little bit of tape. They brought him down pit road one last time under our most recent caution.
Kyle, Parker Kligerman told me he begged his parents to get him a go-kart. Didn't start go-kart racing until he was 12 years old. Won a bunch of races. His dad said, I'll back you for 1 year. So for 1 year, Kligerman wins a bunch of trophies. His dad says, congratulations, now you're on your own.
Look, I'm going to tell you, but the one thing he said, he begged his parents to get him a go-kart, okay? And they waited until the right time when they knew that's something that he really wanted to do. So many kids have an opportunity to do something, but then you get tired of it. But if you're mature enough and old enough and that's something you really love to do, and obviously, you know, he really cares about motorsports. He's driving the wheels off this thing right now, trying to get back up. You hear the Europeans say, driven in anger. I drove that car in anger for the first time. He's driving this thing in anger, and that just means giving it 10 tenths all the time you're out there.
Great battle between Kligerman and Joey Coulter in the 16. Now watch, just moments ago, Matt Merrill in the 32. Kyle, we've talked about how much speed you carry here through the corners, and Merrill into the corner.
Yeah, he just carried too much speed off the corner. He's okay getting off the corner. But you watch as he comes off the corner there, and you see the cars behind him. You see he's up under the rear of this car, boom. Now he's out in the gray stuff. When you get out in the gray stuff, there's nothing you can do. And you look, the 77, great evasive action right there, but blows by him by about 8 car lengths down the front stretch.
So Kligerman now in the 6th position. He's behind Coulter in the 16. Justin Lofton still the leader, followed by Steve Arpin, Craig Goes. Frank Kimmel rides in the 4th position, the 9-time champion. We're through 61 now, Kyle, of 80 laps.
And this race has gone incredibly uneventful. You know, man, a lot of times we come up here and we have these races and we have a lot of early cautions, and cautions seem to breed caution. But this is, I think it's a tribute to the quality of the racing that we've seen here today. I think the racing has kind of stepped up a notch, even from the first race that we had here.
Coulter and Kligerman about 7 seconds behind that driver, Justin Lofton. Stay with us here at Pocono on Speed. $16 laps remaining here at Pocono in the Pennsylvania ARCA 200. There's your leader, Justin Lofton, in the 6th car. Lofton has led a total of 47 laps. 3 times he's held point. You see the interval there between Lofton and Steve Arpin in the 25. Kligerman in the 77 and Coulter in the 16, side by side. Kyle, that's not a great place to be, side by side.
No, and it's not a great place, and especially for Kligerman. You know, we talk about him being able to come back from adversity. He's having to fight people. We just went, before we went to this scene, we saw Lofton out there running all by himself. He's running his own race. Kligerman is being dictated to where he can run on the racetrack, and that's not good because you can't run your fastest lap, especially with 15 laps to go. Yeah, it's just, as you look at this and you look at Steve Arpin, you know, Arpin, I think when you look at him, he's a guy that's totally changed his whole race from where we started the race to now. He's a factor now, where before, if we talked to first, go back to what we were talking about the first 15 or 20 laps, he wasn't even in our conversation.
Check this out just moments ago here at the Pocono Raceway. There's 9-time champion Frank Kimmel. I hate to keep saying that, but it's an amazing stat. Kligerman and Coulter.
It's hard to believe you can run into each other almost on the straightaway, and it's 99 miles wide. It seems like, you know what I mean? But that was Kligerman trying to use Kimmel as a pick. Yep. Almost use him as a pick, just like you would in basketball or any other sport.
Now Kligerman does finally get by the 16 of Coulter. 14 laps remaining here at Pocono. Can Kligerman come back from that mishap on pit road and win for the 6th time in 2009?
And this is something that Kligerman will learn from as you race. You watch the guys who race at the top levels in other divisions. They won't race with a guy. They'll take their time and set him up and take it where they're the strongest on the racetrack. You see a young guy like Kligerman, he just is interested in passing. He'll try you in 1, he'll try you in 2, he'll try you over the tunnel, he'll try you anywhere. So I think when they begin to mature and get a little bit more mentally into the sport, not so much physically and just outrun you on brute force, he'll become a better and better race car driver. He's got all the tools it takes, and the maturity will come.
Also want to talk about 23-year-old Tom Hessert in this 09 car. There he is in the top 10 now, right now, running in the 8th position, started 28th. Hessert finished 8th in points 1 year ago. And 9th in points right now. Wendy.
And we're used to seeing Tom Hessert in that #1 for Andy Belmont Racing, who's moved over to the 09 with Robbie Benton now. Tom Hessert has been on a roll the last 2 races. He's had top 10s, but here at Pocono, he finished 28th in the spring. So he definitely is going to have a better finish if he maintains his position where he is now, being in the top 10 all day today here at Pocono. I know it's a big points day for Tom Hessert as well, right now being 9th in points. Now it's a 735 points back to the leader, Parker Kligerman, but nonetheless, there's a good battle going on in points in the ARCA REMAX Series, right around 7th, 8th, and 9th between Steve Arpin, Patrick Shelters, who's had a bad day today, and Tom Hessert in 9th. So we know the points are going to shake up a little bit when we leave Pocono today. A good run for Tom Hessert in the 09.
Wendy Hessert holds station in the 8th spot, watching Kligerman and Craig Gose in the 81. That's a battle for 3rd.
See, and here's Kligerman. He catches the 81. He runs him down from 4th to 3rd, and instantly, as soon as he gets to him, pulls out on him and tries to pass him. And you can't make that pass. He's not really made that pass. He's going to make this one. Call me a liar. But he's not really made that pass on anybody coming out of turn 1. You know what I mean? So fall in line, get that run, and by now, when you look at the time, he's lost time on that lap. Even though he gained a position, he lost time to the leader on that lap. And when you get down to 10 or 12 laps to go, 19 has a flat left front. You see it about to come off the wheel here. And this could just be bunching everybody up if Allie cannot get back around.
Allie Owens in the 19. So far, we have not seen the caution flag. Just 11 laps remaining. Kyle, I mentioned that Parker Kligerman's dad said, "I'll support you for 1 year." The rest of that story is the next year he put together a USAC, I think he said Silver Crown team, borrowed some money from his grandparents. He had a little money in savings, and he said, "We were the most underfunded team you've ever seen." But he did it.
Yeah, and that's good, because that shows that he wanted to do it. He did it.
He said his parents, his dad, wanted him to stop racing.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, okay? And I'm sure. I mean, there's a lot of parents out there. You can go back, and probably there's a lot of parents that want their kids to race, but there's a lot of parents out there that if you went and asked them today, would you do it again? And they'll say, no, I would not want my child to do this again. But, you know, there's a kid who had the drive, who had the desire. His father helped him and said, okay, here's a taste of it. Now, if you still like it, you got to do the rest of it. And he went out and did it on his own, or did it with the help of family and friends and everybody else. But if you don't have that desire and have that passion, you're not going to put it on the line like he's putting it on the line here today. And all these guys are, you know, no matter what you're given.
Lofton in the 6th car, working traffic.
And this is what Apron and Kligerman is hoping for, traffic. You know, just somebody throw a roadblock out in front of Lofton right now and give us a shot at him. Because if they can get a caution here in the last 10 laps and get a shot at him, then it's totally going to change the complexion of the race. But it's tough to be 6 or 7 seconds behind like Kligerman is at this point in time. Alperen's only 1 second behind. But it's tough to be that far behind and count on that guy up front to make a mistake that you're going to catch you.
Wendy, what's going on with the 16?
Joey Coulter had to give up his position. The left front was down, as in down. It was a big pop on that left front. 2 left sides called by crew chief Harold Hawley. And if we take a look at this left front, it is completely shredded off the 16. The same thing just happened to Brian Silas of the 11. He also had to come down for a left front tire. So we could be watching some tire problems these last 10 laps.
And that could be camber. Are you too aggressive of how that tire is leaned in or out?
And there's 2 things here at Pocono. One can be camber. I don't think, because it's not widespread, it's not a tire issue. So let's don't blame tire companies and start jumping on tire companies. You see how little air pressure is in that tire right there. You see the wrinkled sidewall. That's bad to begin with on new tires. Then you've got so much camber, you got it leaned out so far. That's not good for the tire. And then as a driver, it's your job to keep it off the curb going across the tunnel. And when you run across that curb and you see the sidewall was torn out of this thing. Now the sidewall didn't necessarily come out first. This which came first, the chicken or the egg. You know what I mean? The air goes out and then the sidewall goes out. But you run across that curb and hit that curbing with that left side. It just shreds that sidewall eventually. And right where the tire is put together, where the top of the tire and the belts in the tire are put to the sidewall, they'll come apart. And I don't care whether it's a Hoosier, a Goodyear, a Firestone, or a Recap. It's going to happen that way.
8 laps remaining, Kyle. Justin Lofton in the 6 car continues to lead. He's followed by Steve Arpin in the 25. Kligerman has made his way up into the 3rd position. Then it's Craig Ghost, Frank Kimmel, Matt Merrill, Tom Hessert, and Rob Brent.
And Kligerman, you know, as we look at this, Steve Alprin in the 25, he's kind of maintaining. He's right there about a second, you know, a 10th right along in there. He's kind of maintaining and catching traffic in bad places. That's a bad place to catch traffic right in the middle of that corner. So that'll slow him down a little bit. And here's a car on the racetrack, and if this car stops, caution's out, all right, which totally will change the race. That's something that Lofton didn't want to see. That's something that Kligerman has been praying for inside that helmet for the last 20 laps.
That's Barry Fitzgerald in the 06. Now, Allie Owens, we showed you her car moments ago slowing down. She was able to make it to pit road, but it looks like Fitzgerald was not. So the caution comes out for the 5th time on lap 73 of 80. Stay with us here from the Pocono Raceway on speed. We're going to settle it here on the 2.5-mile tricky triangle. Glad you're with us here on speed. We're going to see a shootout here at the Pocono Raceway. Justin Lofton is the leader in the 6 car. He's followed by Steve Arpin in the 25, Parker Kligerman in the 77, and Craig Ghost in the 81. Frank Kimmel lurking in the 5th position. Now, Justin Lofton has 3 wins in 32 ARCA starts. The 25-year-old from Westmoreland, California, won at the Talladega Superspeedway back in April. And then picked up his 2nd checkered flag of 2009 just 1 week ago at the Berlin Raceway. Trying to win his 3rd race of this 2009 season. 2nd in points to Parker Kligerman. We've had 6 lead changes. Lofton has led 3 times for 58 laps. Average speed slowed to just over 110 miles an hour by 5 cautions for 28 laps. 13 cars in the garage. Want to mention also Tony Palumbo in the 70 car hit the wall hard on lap 10, has been taken to a local hospital for observation.
You know, this has been a good race. We've talked about Lofton and Kligerman most of the time, but there's been great racing for 4th and 5th, for 7th and 8th. It's a little bit deeper in the pack. It doesn't go all the way back to 25th and 30th by any stretch of the imagination. But, you know, these guys have passed. We've seen a lot of passing today. We've seen a lot of lead changes. We've seen a lot of passing on the racetrack, not just on pit road. And that's what racing's all about, man. Put it on the racetrack.
Kyle, we're going to restart with less than, or right at 5 laps to go. If you're Lofton, are you on defense? Are you on offense? He has said coming into this race, I'm not racing for points anymore. I'm racing to win.
If you're on Lofton, you're on the gas. That's all you are. Okay, you just got to go.
Yep.
You can't worry about trying to block. You know, you can't worry about trying to block anybody. You can't worry about making your move. You've got to go run your race and make them get around you. We saw earlier in the race, and we've seen it happen. Kligerman and these guys, they can catch you, but they have a hard time passing you. And catching and passing, we hear it in racing all the time, are 2 totally different things. So Lofton just needs to run his race, run as strong as he can, throw the mirror in the back seat and run.
Where would Kyle Petty want to be on this restart?
I would like the race to be already over and set in the victory lane.
In the 6 car.
On this restart, you want to be in the 6 car. You want to be up front. You want to control your destiny. You don't want to have to race. The best thing that can happen is the 25 and the 77 get side by side here over the tunnel, and he get a 2nd or so out, because we've seen it's going to take him multiple laps to reel back in a 2nd or more on the racetrack.
About 9 miles of racing to settle it for Lofton, Arpin, Kligerman, Ghost, Kimmel, and Hessert. Bobby Gerhardt, the last driver on the lead lap. Let's go to Wendy.
Well, the 6 is Justin Lofton on that caution, having some conversation with Mark Redd, his crew chief. I went on the pit box and asked Mark, are you concerned about tires? With a smirk, he shook his head no. I said, are you worried about fuel? With a smirk, he shook his head no. They just did not want to see that caution come out. Of course, that puts Kligerman and Steve Arpin right on the tail of Justin Lofton. Justin's doing a good job on that restart, pulling away from them, but he is concerned. Whether you think that you're going to throw away that mirror, you can't help but look in that mirror in these final few laps, Jim.
And Justin Lofton knew well enough, as well as the crew chief on the 25, Billy Venturini, under the last period of green. The 25 car was closing on the 6, so he got 2.5 tenths faster at one point and closing on Justin Lofton in the right going. So as Lofton's laps are running out here, the 25's time is running out as well. They talked about staying bunched up on the restart. They lost a little bit of ground. That could prove to be the difference of what was a faster race car.
Jim Kligerman by Arpin in the 25 for the second position.
And I think you saw Arpin push up a little bit coming out, but he just ran down in that first corner so hard. The draft does affect these cars here, especially down the front stretch. Now you see the crossover move, the famous Dale Earnhardt Sr. move. Pass me one corner, I'll pass you back, or at least run into your door in the next corner. Doesn't make
trouble!
And there it is.
And he got into his door. Kligerman backs into the wall. The yellow flag is out for the 6th time.
And I'm going to say, that's just racing. I don't care. You know, you look at Arpin. Arpin got down. He got past. He did the perfect thing. He checked up. He let Kligerman have the line over the tunnel. Then he crossed over down the short chute, took the inside line, and with 2 laps to go, man, you're in the gas. You're trying to win the race. He's got to make time too. Stands in the gas. The car, just as I said, it had already pushed up off of turn 1. Pushed up a little bit off turn 3 over there, pushes up into the corner, and that's just racing. There was no intent in that at all. Those guys were racing hard trying to catch Lofton.
Caution flag is out here, Kyle. They do have the opportunity for a green-white checkered finish in ARCA RE/MAX competition. And you know what? That was a big break for Justin Lofton.
Huge break for Lofton. Because this was his chief competition right here. You know, Arpin had done a great job of hanging on and maintaining, but really Arpin was no match for the 77 or the 6 car of Lofton. You hate that for Kligerman because he did drive a great race. And I think they made great calls. Everything was perfect. But you see these guys, this is going into turn 3. The 25 cover Arpin, he jumps on the gas. You see the car start to move up the racetrack, and it's just that light touch. And I want you to watch what Arpin does. As the car spins, Arpin slow, slow, slow. He's still slow. I mean, he feels bad about it. He didn't just hit him and power through it. He just kind of backed it down, and he's thinking to himself, my God, I can't believe I've done this, and I've got into this kid.
Well, and you called it, Kyle. It was a crossover move. Kligerman went by him coming off the turn 2, and guess what? Here comes Arpin with a run.
Yeah, it's the same thing you see in other sports. It's like a head fake. It's something like that. It's the crossover move. Everybody does it, but you see he's in the gas, pushing up the racetrack. Kligerman does nothing wrong. He's running his line, and all of a sudden he's around.
Same piece of real estate.
Same piece. They're just going for it. And remember, they're going for the points. They're going for the win. They're going for everything. It's all bunched up here in the last part of the race.
Good point by Kyle Petty. We said Justin Lofton lopped off 50 points on Kligerman's 150-point lead after the win at Berlin, and this is going to tighten it up even more. There's Chris Carrier, the crew chief for Kligerman.
And I don't know where Kligerman is on the racetrack, but he has not come down pit road yet. He's still out there running around. Now, because he's still out there running around and the left front is locked up, eventually they'll black flag him or they'll do something. But he's not a lap down yet. He's still in lead lap car. He's in 11th place right now, still in the lead lap. He's coming down pit road. But, you know, he would wish that they would throw the green flag and he could just ride around and finish on the lead lap because he's got 11th place car here no matter what.
Kyle just saw the flag man give the 1-to-go sign, so they'll take the green flag. It'll be a green-white checkered finish here at Pocono. Jim Trado.
They're going to salvage what they can do in the 77. Left side tires, bang out the fender, and try to finish this race. They know they're sitting 11th right now. They're trying to get as many track positions as they can. As a limping car comes on pit road, the left front completely off the race car. They'll try to put rubber on it to complete the final lap. Wendy?
The 6 of Justin Lofton, as soon as that caution came out on the radio, Mark Redd, his crew chief, save fuel, save fuel. They were 5 laps to the good before this caution came out. That, of course, didn't take into account the green-white checkered that we are going to encounter at the end of this race now. So we do know that Justin Lofton is saving his fuel, trying to keep as much as he possibly can. And also Justin Lofton knows that the 25 is going to be on his tail after that. Jim, back to you.
And Steve Arpin did apologize. He said, send somebody down to the 77. It was my fault. And Parker Kligerman obviously not happy with the answer or the apology at this point, but the Arpin had to get pumped up immediately. His crew chief Billy Venerini said, this is big league auto racing. Shake it off. It was racing. Let's get back in the game. We have a race to win. So Arpin feeling a little sulky in the seat, got pumped up by his crew chief under that caution. And he's sitting second now, looking for his first ARCA victory.
My fault doesn't fix Kligerman's race car.
No.
That's what I hear racers say all the time.
And here's what I like. Richard Petty and David Pearson never said it was my fault. Those guys never. This is a new phenomenon. People apologize, and I don't understand it.
All right, here we go, Kyle Petty. Green, white checker. It's Lofton in the lead. Arpin in the 25. Ghost in the 81. We're going to settle it here at Pocono.
And great start. You saw Kligerman to your right. He's just going to go back out and try to finish the race. That's all he's interested in. I hope nothing falls off the car. I tell you what, Lofton got the start he needed right here with this many laps to go. Just put a little bit of distance so there's nobody messing with you, and you got to keep checking your mirror, because that's what he was having to do the last few laps, was check his mirror. Now he's just outrunning his race.
See the blue car, 2 cars back. That's Matt Merrill in the 32. Lofton with a good clean lap. You see Merrill dropping to the bottom in the 32. Side by side, he goes past Arpin. 81, Craig Ghost in the 4th spot.
And, you know, I think Arpin's car is just tight. You know, he just cannot get up off the corner the way he needs to be getting up off the corner. And these guys are getting position of him, getting position on him leaving the race.
White flag. There's Kligerman slowed on the back of the racetrack. 2.5 miles to settle it here at Pocono. Lofton with a lead, but look at Merrill in the 32 car, Kyle.
And the 32 car is coming, but, you know, I'm not sure. I'm telling you, he drove off in turn 1, but when he jumps on the gas, these corners are that way, and especially these flat corners. When you pick up the throttle early, and here's Arpin getting passed for 3rd place across the tunnel. I think Arpin's car is just tightened up so much that there's nothing he can do about it. He's just riding this thing. But the 32 car, when he jumps into gas, this thing pushes up. All Lofton has to do, ease into the corner, pick up the throttle smooth, and get that run up off the corner. You see the 32 dive? I mean, he barrels off into that corner. But as he picks up the gas right here, you see him push out into the white stuff and the 6th car, and you see right here, there's a separation back again.
Checker flag for Justin Lofton, his 4th career win, his 3rd of 2009. Just his 33rd start in ARCA REMAX Series competition. And Lofton's going to have a huge day because Parker Kligerman had trouble late in the race. Team owner Eddie Sharp celebrating the victory by Justin Lofton. The crew celebrates here on pit road for Justin Lofton. We'll come back and talk to him here at Pocono. Stay with us here on Speed. Speed's coverage of the ARCA REMAX Series is brought to you by REMAX, outstanding agents, outstanding results, and by ARCA Nation. Get in, get on at arcaracing.com. Big story here at Pocono is Justin Lofton wins for the 3rd time in this 2009 season, his 4th career win. Lofton just pulling in to victory lane in his Toyota. Parker Kligerman was able to limp home in the 21st position. Kyle, he was going to finish.
And it's so cool. You know,
no question.
This is reminiscent of Carl Edwards walking across the start finish. He was going to finish the race. It's not a DNF for him. He's 2 laps down, but he got a lot of fans today. A lot of these people in the stands are cheering for him.
Let's go to Wendy.
Justin Lofton still getting the towel and trying to get out of the race car, get his belt undone. He knows he wants to get out of this race car. The team celebrating. Justin Lofton for the 3rd time in 2009 will become the winner of today's race in the ARCA REMAX Series. Justin, in the spring, it was 2nd. Today, you're the winner. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. This is an awesome race. I was nervous when that last caution came out, but Mark Wright and everyone on the number 6 crew just did a fantastic job. And, oh, I'm a little tired after that one.
And you're out of breath, but here's the good news. You have a 5-point lead, my friend.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad we're leaving here with Pocono with a lead. Oh, thanks.
All right, he's out of breath. Steve Burns, Justin Lofton, the winner here in Pocono.
Well, Wendy, Kyle Petty said it before the race. This could be a huge points day for Justin Lofton, and it is. He's made up over 100 points, 150 points in 2 races.
Yeah, and Kimmel made up 70, 80 points today, too. So, like we said, this thing can go on down to the wire. And with racing like this in the ARCA Series, it will.
So we're going to have a great points battle the rest of the way in between Kligerman and Justin Lofton. Kyle Petty, I had a great time. Enjoyed doing the ARCA race with you,
It was
man.
fun, man, and it was a great ARCA race. I mean, I'm telling you, so these guys can put on a show, and they put one on the day.
For Kyle Petty, Wendy Venturini, and Jim Trado, I'm Steve Burns. Thanks for being with us here at Pocono. NASCAR Live is next.